You ever wonder why so many pro athletes go and use stem cell therapy? Because it works. I'm Ron Slay, retired 14-year pro basketball player, and I needed to get this done. After I went through my entire career riddled with injuries, I needed therapy. So I went to Kellum Stem Cell Institute out in Franklin. Why? Because they're the stem cell specialists. They can be yours too. They're the stem cell specialists of the Tennessee Titans. You know why? Because it works.
Make an appointment today with Kellum Stem Cell Institute.
Got Keith Bullock coming in studio here in just about 20 minutes from now, so you can look forward to KB. We'll be talking some Titans, of course, some training camp mindset, and how you as a team leader kind of galvanize your squad and try and maintain that momentum through the just dragging days of what training camp is as we really start to get into the heat of this thing. Joint camps is next week with the Seattle Seahawks. I'm certain that will be an exciting time. And we will have tickets to give away, right, Jackson? Here in this hour for Oh No, we have tickets?
Yes, 2 tickets to see the Titans and the 49ers this weekend, as well as a gift card to A Moment's Peace.
Preseason football and a spa trip. How about that?
First day of school for many, many people.
What?
Out there, yes.
August the 6th?
Yes. So maybe there are already parents that need a moment's peace.
Oh, my God.
Exciting day. I mean, what is that for us? The first day of school is basically Saturday for us, or was it the first day out at training camp?
Oh, the first day of school. I don't know. The draft felt like the first day of school for me. I feel like I've been back in back in the swing of things for quite some time now at this point.
Were you one of those kids that was, obviously you're bummed that summer's coming to an end,
Sure.
but there was a little bit of excitement to get back to being around all your friends in the sports and all that stuff?
Yeah, no, it's I think especially if you do any kind of like, Pee Wee or Cub or freshman high school football, you get back with your boys or around your friends earlier in the summer, and then it starts to, you start to get back into the vibe of things. So it almost felt like football practice was that initial first day back of school. And then, of course, that was a suffering if you were, if you're old enough to do like two-a-days or stuff like that, because they were still doing two-a-days in high school football as recently as me being in high school.
Too.
Which is kind of crazy to think about right now. Anyway, so congratulations to all the parents out there that are having the wonderful burden of their children lifted by the Metro Nashville education system.
Ricky in the FNN Bank chat says school started last week in Lebanon, so starting early out there. But I was curious because I was asking Hunk about it. His son is starting his first day of school today down in Huntsville. If you still because to me the best part about going back to school was the new school supplies. Just fresh, crisp notebooks, pens, pencils, highlighters, all of those things. I still get that wave of nostalgic excitement when I'm in a Staples if I need something in particular and I walk by the school supplies and it's like I'm reaching out for them. I want them. But do you, what is the adult version of that now? Do we have that excitement?
Oh, no, for us, it's training camp.
Because none of us have kids. I wonder if when you're taking your kids to get new school supplies, you get those waves of nostalgic excitement about getting crisp new notebooks to break out on the first day of class. You mean
as a parent watching your child go through the same experience?
Yeah.
No, they're probably just like, get the hell out of my house. I'm tired of you running around without supervision. At least that's what kind of parent I would be.
I mean, for me, it is when I need new supplies for play-by-play stuff, like scissors, tape, manila folders. I get
tape.
I get those type
I've never actually seen the process of making a board. That would be interesting to me.
But for the Titans, the first day of school was a couple of weeks ago.
Somebody just asked why we don't let Hunk work remote. I had no idea that Hunk was driving like 2 hours a day.
You did. You did know that.
At some point, somebody told me that.
You've known that for quite a while now.
He's worked here for like 3 years.
I always forget, though.
You had no idea until you found out probably a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Well, no, it's a nice reminder. Do you think about Hunk's commute very often? It doesn't often cross my mind. But
I think about it every day. Yeah.
Clearly. 615-737-1045 is the number. You want to talk about this mess that Brandon Aiyuk seems to have made with the San Francisco 49ers? Here's my thing, all right? The Niners are not a stupid organization, and it would seem to me not smart to trade Brandon Aiyuk away. I don't see leverage there. But at the same time, I did not see leverage in A.J. Brown's case, and A.J. Brown was able to manipulate the situation, him and his representation, get the better of a general manager that was set out to win the negotiation as much as he was set out to keep a talented player in John Robinson. So there's nothing, I guess, to keep Brandon Aiyuk from continuing to make this thing messy if he doesn't get a trade, because the reporting around this is coming out of a couple of different places, but primarily out of the Bay Area, where Matt Mayoko of NBC Sports Bay Area is saying that the 49ers have the framework in place for a trade with both the Browns and the Patriots. So they've got terms generally agreed to, according to this report. Now, the last time we heard about terms being agreed to, but a deal not getting done, was Derrick Henry in that Dan Pompei report. And what did Rain Carthon say about that? No such structure of a deal was agreed upon, and he wasn't sure where that came from when last we spoke to him. So I'm hesitant with all that. I don't know when we got to the point where we started reporting on frameworks of trades with multiple teams, as opposed to just reporting, all right, Brandon Aiyuk has been traded to the Browns, the Patriots, or somebody else.
Commanders are not in the picture here. The Steelers appear to be interested, but now it's being reported they are not a potential trade destination any longer. That's from Mike Reese of ESPN. So if you're Brandon Aiyuk, would you rather stay in San Francisco and compete for a Super Bowl, or get your money and go play for the New England Patriots, who could be a middling situation this season at best.
Just can't for the life of them beat the Titans out for a wide receiver in free agency here of late.
And the Browns are in the picture here. So Patriots, Browns, one of these things is not like the other. But it does seem like the first domino has fallen in getting Brandon Aiyuk out of San Francisco.
So it would seem to me that based on what he's doing, right? Has he not already answered that question, what he would prefer to do? He doesn't seem interested in staying in San Francisco at all unless they're willing to pay him. And I don't know if we've reached the expiration point on how much longer they're willing to put up with this versus how much longer he's willing to work for less than what he's worth. And he is worth more than he is being compensated for.
He's an all-pro wide receiver.
So let's not make this about diva wide receiver forcing his way out. No, if you were in a situation that you deem to be somebody, for lack of a better term, taking advantage of your situation when you understand that you are worth far more and you are seeing your peers get money that definitely justifies their value to their respective organizations or justifies the value of the player to their respective organizations. I guess the question here is, how much money is too much money for a wide receiver once you start to get into this Justin Jefferson territory or Devontae Adams territory? A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle are the top 5 paid players in the league. Hill on up from 4 to 1 are all making $30 million a year or more in average annual salary, though their cap hits are not $30 million every year. We understand this. It's a tough decision, right? Because the Niners are trying to keep a good team together. The Niners stay in the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl. They found ways, for whatever you think of Shanahan and 28-3 choking moments or kind of skeptical of him being able to just finally get over the hump when the hump is Patrick Mahomes, and nobody seems to be able to get past that beyond, the odd Joe Burrow year here or there. I don't blame San Francisco for kind of pumping the brakes and saying, yeah, but can we kind of do something like this for a little less money and get a ring out of it? While Aiyuk seems entrenched in his position of, yeah, but bleep all that, pay me.
He is the best wide receiver on a team that was in the Super Bowl last year. Mm-hmm. So I see where Brandon Aiyuk is coming from. You can be skeptical that Brandon Aiyuk is a bona fide wide receiver 1 on any team other than the San Francisco 49ers. Like, is Brandon Aiyuk as good on the New England Patriots as he is on the San Francisco 49ers? Probably not. The numbers probably don't look the same. I don't know. A lot depends on the quarterback situation, but he is the best wide receiver on the roster of a team that is a perennial contender over the last X amount of years. So I see where he's coming from in this.
It's one of those classic cases of, does he actually think that money buys happiness? Because there can be some regret in taking the bag and going to New England and wasting the prime of your career while they try and figure out, is Drake May something? Maybe Drake May something. Jacoby Brissett's going to be the starting quarterback for a period of time. What's that look like? How does that impact you when, Jacoby Brissett, who's a very safe quarterback, doesn't push the ball down the field, doesn't get somebody like Brandon Aiyuk involved? Do they have a play caller in New England that is as skilled as creating speed and space the way that Kyle Shanahan is capable of doing? I'm not saying that Aiyuk is not justified in feeling this way, but there are some drawbacks, just as any of us when we make professional decisions, right? Is the money so much more worth a situation where you think you might ultimately be more happy? It's tough to kind of weigh those consequences in real time. Keith Bullock just walked into the studio, which means I've talked entirely too long in this segment.
So we don't waste any more of Keith Bullock's time than we already are. Can you go ahead and give the F&M Bank chat the dog update that they are so desperately pleading for before we go to break and come back with KB?
Yeah, Austin Stanley did me a solid. So the dog, for those of you who don't know the situation, I went out for a jog yesterday. I found a dog that somebody dumped in front of Crossroads Pets up there on Rosa Parks and Monroe. So I took the dog home. Kept the dog at the house while we were doing the radio show, and Austin Stanley of A to Z Sports bailed me out because it was hot as hell outside, and I didn't want to let the dog in the house because the dog had fleas. So had put some ice water out there, put the crate in the shade, try to create the best possible situation for the dog to be okay until I got home to take it to a shelter. Austin went earlier during the radio show, took it to Crossroads. So happy got taken in by the good people at Crossroads. And if you want to adopt him, I'm sure that he will be available for adoption as soon as they, get the poor boy fixed.
Shout out Austin Stanley.
Yes, so we appreciate that. That's the dog update. Keith Bullock's next. Pain from arthritis is just awful. Bone on bone, constant pain. It robs you of so much of the stuff that you love to do. But there are effective ways to deal with that pain, and I'm not talking about drugs or surgery. There are exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief, and the place to go is QC Kinetics. They use cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. If you're living with chronic pain from arthritis or injury, you need to know that steroids and surgery and pain pills are no longer your only option. Learn how QC Kinetics can use advanced regenerative medicine to treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. So call for a free consultation, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024 in Nashville, Clarksville, and Murfreesboro. Welcome back to the show. It's always good when we can hang out with our buddy Keith Bullock, Titans legend, Mr. Monday Night, in studio with us. What's going on, big dog?
Trying to beat the heat. Yesterday, I was out there with my man Eddie George at TSU practice, and I just kind of definitely don't miss camp. And these kids are only, it's like, you know, a couple hours. Like, I don't want to downplay it. Like, it's 2.5 hours or so outside, but it used to be 2.5 hours. You get like a 4-hour break, then it's another 2.5 hours. And I actually played when we had triple sessions, so.
I can't even, like, wrap my head around that. You know, and it's probably so foreign for some of the audience to kind of, you know, a lot of people still remember the old days. Jimmy Wyatt still talks about what it was to cover teams during that and how your days just kind of blur together at a certain point
1000%.
Once you're out there in the heat for that long, at that extended of a period. How do you get yourself, I mean, I'm sure it differs in different phases of your career, but how would you approach that every year? Because it is such a damn grind, Keith.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to spread it out throughout the course of your off season. You know, when the season ends, you definitely need to take at least a month to yourself to do nothing. Like, if you don't have rehab, just kind of enjoy yourself, stay some time with your family. And I was always one that got back into it before the off season program started, because I kind of, as I got older, into my career, I had my own program that I would do and really only be here for mandatory OTAs. So I wouldn't be here for the April and May stuff. I just show up in June. And Jeff would always have something to say about it. But, you know, you get to a point in your career, you know how to prepare for yourself. You know, a 5-6 year Keith Bullock doesn't need the same, you know, off-season program as a second, third year guy. And then by the time I get to camp, I'm ready to go. My last hurrah, I used to call it, we would go to Vegas July 4th weekend and it'd be like, party 4 days in a row, you know, just get it all out of your system. And then I'm in Arizona training for 2 weeks and 110 degrees. So they call it dry heat or however it is. It goes from the last hurrah to the purge when you get to Arizona because you're throwing that whole weekend up. So.
God almighty. I can't
And then you come to Nashville for the heat and it's time to go.
That's exactly right. What did you tweet out? Separating the men from the boys at training camp. And it's certainly that vibe. And as a team leader, you have to set the tone, obviously. And we've seen guys, you know, try and fill the void that Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill and as you start to phase out Mike Vrabel and everything else, like it's a new era over there in a lot of different ways. And we're seeing people kind of feel that out. You've been through that a million different times, seeing teammates and coaches try and establish themselves that way. How do you, I mean, there's probably no one right way to do it, but what's that experience like?
Well, a bunch of different, I played here for 10 years, and, when Steve and Eddie were here, I didn't have to do nothing but show up. I was just trying to figure out how to get on the field. And then, like you're saying, having to fill that void, there was even still a time and space that, I just wanted to ball. I'm one of the top linebackers in the league. I know how to do my job really well, and that's all I was concerned about. And, it becomes a point in time in your career when you look around, there are no leaders. Even if you don't want to be a leader, I know how to be a leader. I'm a natural leader. So, Jeff Fisher and I actually had a conversation. He told me that, I have the ability to take this team one up or down, based upon, my attitude and how I approach things. So, I think that it just depends. Each team has multiple leaders, and they are called upon to lead in different instances and in different situations. So until we developed those leaders or actually went out and got those leaders, such as a Chris Hope, a David Thornton, a Kevin Mawai, a KVB Kyle Vanderbosch turned into a leader. But when he got here, he was kind of on the same stuff I was on. He was coming off 2 ACLs. He ain't thinking about being a leader. He's trying to get out there and get his. So he eventually saw that there was avoidance of leadership in certain spaces. So he eventually came on. Hainsworth wasn't a leader, but at the same time, he was a leader in his own way when it came to either practice or games and stuff like that. It wouldn't be something that, you're going to take note of outside looking in, but he was a leader in that way for sure.
Keith Bullock hanging out here with us on 104.5 The Zone.
So how would you even go about establishing that, KB? Like when Jeff Fisher sits you down and talks about, this is what I need from you, obviously you already have the draw of your name and people know what you've accomplished in this league, but do you have to add anything onto your plate in terms of, okay, I need to start doing things like this in order to actually be considered a leader on this football team? Like, how do you even go about that? Because there's probably some guys on this team now that are kind of going through a similar situation.
Because we know nothing about this, Keith. Neither of us are leaders. We just kind of, we flit from person to person.
Well, I think the first thing is first. It's got to be believable before you can say anything. You got to lead on the field. You know what I mean? So it's one thing. Okay, you go out, you have an All-Pro, Pro Bowl season, but then. In these hot days, how are you getting the guys through practice? How are you bringing people with you? Yeah, you might have the energy because you're in your 5th or 6th year, but how are you helping getting that 2nd year guy through this hot day of practice? What are the little things that you're doing? So for me, it was a lot of that, and a lot of my former teammates would say, I used to talk a lot. And I did talk a lot in practice on purpose. One, to get through practice, because it gets boring. Look, our jobs can get repetitive. You play football, it's great. Yeah, it's great, but it can get repetitive if we're just doing this, practicing the same defense
games
for the
great.
Next. Yeah, we're getting ready for a game that we don't have until 3 weeks in camp. So, I definitely always ran my mouth. And one, because, I could talk it and I could back it up. And then 2, it was about challenging those teammates that I felt needed to be challenged. Look, we're going against, Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher, LeVar, like these big time guys. And I put myself in that same category. So if you could take it during practice, you should be able to go on the field and perform during those times. And I think that during the dog days of camp, that's when, you need that chatter. You need that trash talk. Tight end might need to be challenged a little bit more. If I was on the team, Traylon Burks might need to be challenged a little bit more because I know we're going to need him at some point during the season, and yeah, I want you to take it personal right now because when we go in the locker room, it's all good, but we're coming out here the next day and I want you to take it personal every day during camp because, this is professional football. You could take things personal on the field, but obviously we go into, eat lunch, I could sit down with you and chop it up, and we're gonna forget about me telling you how bad you sucked in the last period.
Going back to your point about like how you would manage your body, especially as you got along in your career, and specifically like Fisher bringing up, maybe not loving it because you went at that point in time, certainly you were definitely harder. It seems like coaches were harder about attendance than they are right now. Just coaching in general, how it's kind of evolved, because you're still around a lot of your former teammates who are coaching, a lot of people like Eddie over there at TSU and at every level of the sport. The way that coaching has evolved, it feels like it can be such a blind spot for media on the impact that it has on the players throughout the course of this, but I wonder what your perspective is on that.
Well, I think coaching is evolved, and the way that they take care of players has evolved, for a positive, because I talk about the 2-a-days and the 3-a-days, and it was during the time when the mentality was you're soft if you're not out there, or, it was a really, really tough, physical, mentally, all of those things that come into football was real back then, in the 90s and 2000s when I played. I was just in Canton for Dwight Freeney, who I went to college with. And he got inducted, and I got to see my old college football coach, Paul Pasqualoni. And that was one of the things he mentioned is how tough that class of football players was that he had from, 96 to 2000, because that's what the game was. I just think that it definitely is one of those situations that I lost my train of thought, but, you got to have your mind right.
Sure. How was Hall of Fame weekend?
It was great. It was great. The Titans don't get much Hall love, and that's okay. But that being said, it was my first time going to Ghana as a player, and to see, all the great players, some of my favorite football players ever. Freeney is friends with Michael Jordan, so MJ was in the building. I think the coolest thing about it was to ironically enough, to actually be at a Colts Hall of Fame, be at a Hall of Fame celebration, and
little bit of sticking point there, huh?
It was, you know what? So it was great, man. Obviously, I competed against those guys over 10, 20 times, and we talk about the different battles and actually specific moments. And at one point, the whole offense, Peyton and the offense wanted to take a picture with me, and I didn't know if they were trolling me or, you know what I'm saying? So, I kind of...
I feel like you do know. I feel like I feel like that's a troll.
Yeah, I kind of flick birds in it. Don't worry about it. That one won't come out too well. But it was a great time, man. See, Bill Polian, Peyton Manning, Edwin James, who I'm friends with. It just was... been better if it was for the Titans, but I appreciated it.
Keith Bullock hanging out here with us on 104.5 The Zone.
So I'm curious, when the schedule would come out for you, especially after the Mr. Monday Night tag was already applied, would Keith Bullock immediately look to see how many primetime games you guys were playing?
Nah, man, because we probably weren't playing that many.
So this is not just a new thing. This has been the thing.
No, Buck, this has been a thing.
This has been the thing.
If we had momentum, if we were coming off of, you know what I'm saying, like one year we played like that Saints game. We hadn't played on Monday night in like a few years, so that's where that whole thing came from. The reporter's like, have you ever played on Monday night? I'm like, man, I missed the Monday night. What are you talking about? And then lo and behold, I went out and had 3 picks. But that Saints game, they had Lindell White, Vince Young, and Reggie Bush. So, Reggie was on the Saints. We had Lindell and VY, so that might have been like that USC Texas attraction why they did it. VY just won Rookie of the Year the year before. So, it always had to be special circumstances, unless we were hot. And even when we were hot, we still didn't get that much love. So that's why, we always played with a chip on our shoulder. That's why we would stomp the terrible towel. That's why we talk trash, just because, we always play with the mentality we got to take our respect because no one's giving it to us. So.
There's a lot of players coming over from places that are used to being under those lights, right? Whether it's Snead from Kansas City or Kenneth Murray coming over from playing for a Los Angeles team, and he's been a big talking point all throughout Camp KB at that middle linebacker spot. And Denard Wilson said last week that we talk so much about the green dot. We ask about the green dot. I said it's not about the green dot. It's about the green light, giving Murray the green light to just go and hunt and play football. you played 1 year under Greg Williams, right? Just your rookie year.
Yeah, I was a rookie.
Denard Wilson has a lot of influence from Greg Williams, from working under him. So if you were to take some of the things that made Greg Williams' defenses so great in his day and apply it to a player with the skill set of a Kenneth Murray, what does that mean to you to give a player the green light? Like, how do you accomplish that to try and maximize the talent, the athleticism of a guy like Kenneth Murray to allow him to go hunt?
Well, I think the best thing that I can kind of compare it to, because when I got here with Greg, for me, what he did was, just by being in his room and being, the things that he held me accountable for as a first-round draft pick, being that I didn't have a lot of responsibility on the field, but he did hold me accountable to certain things being a first-round draft pick. And he had expectations of me, and it kind of but kind of showed me and put me on to the mentality, you kind of needed to be successful in this league. The mentality that I gravitated to. There's tons of mentality, but he had a mentality that I gravitated to. But to answer your question, to give someone the green light, the best example is Javon Curse. You see that you have a talent such as Javon Curse, 265, 6'4.5", runs a 4.3. They started using wide 9 defensive ends and gave him the green light. Go get the quarterback. And that's what Javon Curse did. And we haven't seen anyone in a Tennessee Titans uniforms like that since Javon Curse. But I would say, for those people and fans that remember the freak, just his rookie year was one of the reasons why the Titans went from 8-8 to, I think they were 13-3 or 12-4, then to the Super Bowl, and next year winning the AFC South and all of those different things. So he was a difference maker. So you would like to see a guy that has the green light like that ultimately be a difference maker, ultimately be a playmaker. I consider myself to be a playmaker. That's what I was. My position was linebacker, but I made plays, but I didn't have a green light. I played on the right side. You know what I'm saying?
Very specific.
Yeah, I played on the right side. The linemen weren't holding up blocks for me. When it was passing downs, I played the nickel. I played in the middle. I played middle linebacker, so I'm either going to be on the right or in the middle. There's no, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't as good of a defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz was. He saved the schemes for Javon and KVB and those guys because we rushed with 4 people. So
Denard Wilson has talked about empowering Kenneth Murray, and you talk about you being a first-round pick and having a little bit of time while still being held accountable and responsibility, but not being thrust into it right away the way that a lot of dudes now are. And there is tons of different kind of pressures that I think just generally the media atmosphere creates, especially with the internet right now, how much more that's amplified or how real it can seem, even though it's not actually the real world. Like Kenneth Murray, we've tried to talk to him a little bit about.
Like you and Jeff, that wasn't real.
No, it wasn't real. It's just it's all it's all fiction. It's a part of your imagination.
I had to get one.
It's all in the background. I mean,
Jeff was kidding. I don't think anybody knows that.
No, I don't.
Nah, Jeff was mad.
Well, no, I think even that though, because talking about the leadership void, it's never just been on Jeff, all on Jeff that way. Right. And that is a different kind of focal point that you may not necessarily know that you're ready for or be completely made prepared for, or however that looks, Keith. And I lose sight of that, even though I've covered a bunch of rookie classes from time to time. And in that moment, I don't know how much of that, specifically with Jeff or with Murray or all these different guys who have come, Traylon Burks, who's come in with a high pedigree and trying to figure it out in different ways. But it's just such a different environment now, and I wonder if you could speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely, right? You lost Kevin Byard. You lost, Taylor Lewan a couple years ago. You lost DeAndre Hopkins is hurt right now. You lost Ryan Tannehill, so you did have a big void in leadership. And then now, Jeff is asking to be a leader. I already said there are different types of leaders. Jeff is the tone setter on the field. So that first padded practice where he's out there Hulk smash and, out of control and I don't know a defensive lineman that ain't trying to set the tone, that's not like that. And then the aftermath with you, I don't know what that's about, you know what I'm saying? But with that being said, I still got an attitude. It was hot today. It was padded practice. I'm still on a warpath. You said something about me, you're going to get it too right now. You know what I'm saying? So all of those things, and then like obviously everything cools down, and look, you gentlemen have to work parallel to each other. You don't have to work together, but you work parallel to each other. So you have to have a working relationship. So, and you're both adults. Like when I heard it, I was like, oh, snap. But I've been in locker rooms before. Those things happen.
Absolutely.
You handled it great. He might not have handled it in front of he apologized in front of the fans. That's the only thing I would have apologized for too. I wouldn't apologize to you on air. I would eventually, but my point is we would eventually spoke, because like, you know, Jeff don't hate you. You know what I'm saying?
No,
right.
It's been 6 years.
Exactly.
That's how these things go. And that was kind of our point on the air with it, which is...
Shout out to Paul Kaharski. He had everybody had it out for PK.
Still do, depending on the day.
Yeah, take me out of that. Me and PK cool.
That's the one thing that continues generation after generation. No matter who's in that damn locker room,
the more things change.
Somebody got it out for PK on a day-to-day. But
that's too bad.
That's how it goes. No, but that's just generally the working environment.
But then with Kenneth Murray, he's more of all right, he's going to lock the team in. You know, he's the one that's going to, you know, as he gets to know Jeff's personality and everybody else, reel him in, because I would have to reel Albert in from time to time. I'm not going to, you know, shut down his situation if that's what's getting him going. You know what I mean? Me and Cortland Finnegan had gotten into it on the field before, and he's like, yo, let me play my game. So I shut up and let him play his game, but then I also let him know, like, look, don't get us no more penalties out here. Like, you know, however that goes. And then, you know, Coach Callahan, he has to have she showed the leadership on the first day of practice too, because I listened to you guys when I'm in the car, and I think people were saying, should he have thrown Jeff out of practice? Yeah. No, because what type of coach is he? He's a first-year coach, first little skirmish. Jeff, get out of here. Get out of practice. What type of toughness or attitude do you want your team to have then? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I commend you. I commend Jeff. I commend Coach Callahan. That was just how the first day of training camp goes.
Been spicy ever since.
Or padded practice anyway.
Well, but that's the first day of training camp once they put the pads on. Absolutely.
Sure. Now everybody's good, right?
Hey, they're scrapping all over the league right now.
Right, you know,
see the stuff coming out from Lions, Giants joint practices right now.
Like, we've just started to get joint camp practices.
Daniel Jones is starting fights. Malik Neighbors is throwing punches literally this morning, and there are giant skirmishes breaking out across the board. Can't wait to get Seattle in here.
Well, they'll start with the 49ers at Nissan Stadium on Saturday. Preseason action. In fact, we're giving a couple of tickets away coming up next. KB, appreciate you as always for coming in. Always good to chat, and we'll certainly bother you again during the football season.
Word, appreciate you.
I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. 615-737-1045. What made you say, oh no? You give us the best one. We will give you 2 tickets to Niners at Titans Nissan Stadium, the first preseason game of the year, and a $100 gift card courtesy of a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa, who makes this wonderful feature possible. Because if you got a little stress in your life and you're saying, oh no, a lot, you go to a Moment's Peace, you feel a lot better about everything going on in your world. 615-737-1045. Get in there. I'm going to start. Now, this was from last week, okay, with the Olympics ongoing. I can't get enough of the Gold Zone, by the way. It's very, very addicting. I understand now what I'm missing out during football season with Red Zone.
It's great.
Anyway, so archery. Did you see what happened? And I'm going to butcher Kim's last name. Kim J. Duck, I believe, is her last name. The athlete, the archer, who had to try and remain calm and shoot a perfect shot despite a bee landing on the back of his hand in last Monday's archery competition. He's a South Korean athlete. The distraction happened during the semifinal against China, and you can see the bee hovering around his hand as the archer, which is very, very specific, very, very focused, and now all of a sudden he's got a bee floating around his hand. I would not have remained as calm as he did. He still got the shot off correctly. It shows, among many other reasons, the difference between professional athletes and you and I trying to get anything done on a regular basis.
People would have to be ducking for cover if that was me. Those arrows would be going all over the place. There's absolute panic.
Imagine if he isn't laser focused and an arrow ends up in the crowd. You know, we're talking about an internet.
Yep.
Yeah, wars have been started for less, depending on which athlete from which country. My guy from South Korea may or may not have hit because of the bee. So it was a potential, oh my God, no, but it was just a slight oh no in real time. Well done on the South Korean archer for keeping his focus.
Well, Chicago White Sox fans are saying, oh my God, no, because they lost on Monday 5-1 to the Oakland Athletics. It is their 21st consecutive loss, and that ties an AL record.
Are you sure you want the White Sox, Nashville's baseball fans who have been pining for a Major League Baseball team? You sure you want that?
They are looking for a record-breaking loss today, 8:40 first pitch at the A's. It is the year of losing streaks because the Detroit Pistons made history this past year in the NBA, and I just looked up the longest losing streak in NFL history since the merger. It goes to the Tampa Bay Bucks, who lost their first 26 games in franchise history in 1976 and 77. I'm trying to fathom 26 consecutive losses, 2 years of nothing but losses. We'll see who's next, because the Pistons did it in basketball. The White Sox are doing it in baseball. Who's going to do it in the NFL this year? Who's going to have...
Don't you put this evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
I feel good enough.
I did 7 straight losses, all right? I don't have to live that life again.
I feel good enough about this football team to say they will not be losing that many games in a row.
Listen, the Titans were 7-3 when
That's true.
crap started. I had no idea what the next month and a half of my life was about to be.
Carolina Panthers, you're up.
Uh-oh. Jackson?
I feel like there's a lot of options for oh no. We could do Buck giving away a dog. Lucas, what do you have to say?
I didn't give away a dog. I got a dog out of a bad situation and got him adoptable. I almost said a bad word.
Lucas, what he said about J.C. Latham and Jeffrey Simmons yesterday, made me say oh no.
Poor choice of words.
But I'm going to go with a simple one up in New York. Where Daniel Jones is getting in fights with Lions players at joint practice. What the hell are you doing? You're already this close to not being the Giants franchise quarterback anymore, and you're throwing your body into harm's way during training camp joint practice.
Well, he already got paid. He's like, bleep it at this point. You don't want to pay me? You have to pay me. Joke's on you, John Mara. 615-737-1045. Let's start with Eric in construction.
Hey, guys. So my oh no is for what happened yesterday. As we all know, everywhere around the news, the stock market crashed.
Oof.
Big world event. And what always happens when a big event happens, guys, there's a horrendous thing. Nick Castellanos happens.
No,
he didn't.
No, he did not.
He did not hit a home run yesterday, but he was mere inches deep center yesterday. First at bat against the Dodgers, hits one straight head, and it almost leaves the ballpark by a foot. But he did get a triple yesterday and a single, so maybe that makes up for it, but it's just the oh no because